Welcome back to Straight Facts by Dinar Investor.
Sir, the weapons are back online.
Let's go, let's go! Goodbye.
Incoming! We got little trouble back here, Shaw! Lose him in no man's land!
Let's get this up!
Right now, hit that stake!
We're losing the road!
I got you, Hubs.
Hey! The road's out!
Losing power!
Honey! Jump!
Iraq tops the most dangerous countries in tourism. November 19, 2019, 12:06. A specialized company has ranked the most dangerous countries in the tourism sector and is located mainly in Africa and the Middle East. According to the company, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Yemen and Afghanistan are the most dangerous countries to travel in 2020. This conclusion was reached by experts of a foreign company specializing in tourism and medical safety. Experts also identified countries where viral diseases are easily present: in the Central African Republic, South Sudan, Eritrea, Liberia, Guinea, and Nigeria. Traffic accidents are most common in the Dominican Republic, Saudi Arabia, Thailand, Vietnam, and Venezuela. According to experts, the safest countries for travelers are Finland, Iceland, and Norway. Slovenia, Denmark, Luxembourg, and Switzerland were highly rated. The level of risk for tourists traveling to Russia is average. In drawing up the list, experts took into account the following factors: political violence, social unrest, crime, transport infrastructure, and the risk of natural disasters. Pompeo: America will not stand idly by as Iraqis suffer from corrupt officials. November 18, 2019, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said the United States will impose sanctions on corrupt Iraqi officials amid continuing demonstrations against Iraqi authorities across the country. "We will not stand idly by as corrupt officials make the Iraqi people suffer," Pompeo told a news conference Monday evening at the State Department. "The United States will use our legitimate authority to impose sanctions on corrupt figures who steal Iraqi wealth and those who kill and injure civilian protesters," Pompeo said. Britain: kidnappings of militants unacceptable. Iraq faces great opportunity for reforms. November 18, 2019, Britain on Monday expressed its readiness to support Iraq to build a better future for all Iraqis. "We are ready to support Iraq and now have a great opportunity for the necessary reforms to build a better future for all Iraqis," the UK Embassy in Baghdad said on its Twitter website. "Kidnappings of activists are unacceptable and should be investigated," it said. "We look forward to how the Iraqi government responds to the legitimate demands of the Iraqi people, including electoral reform." Washington imposes sanctions on individuals and organizations. ISIS continues to pose a threat to global security. November 19, 2019. The U.S. State Department has announced sanctions against individuals and organizations linked to ISIS. The United States is increasing pressure on its resources and networks by imposing new sanctions on 9 individuals and organizations, the State Department said in a tweet on Twitter. ISIS continues to pose a threat to global security and stability, the State Department said. "We will continue to work in partnership with the global coalition to disrupt its financial networks." The U.S. Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, on Monday, that the United States will impose sanctions on Iraqi officials corrupt, amid continuing demonstrations against Iraqi authorities across the country. "We will not stand idly by as corrupt officials make the Iraqi people suffer," Pompeo told a news conference at the State Department. "The United States will use our legitimate authority to impose sanctions on corrupt figures who steal Iraqi wealth and those who kill and injure civilian protesters," Pompeo said. U.S. Treasury reveals involvement of 6 companies in Turkey and Syria with ISIS financing. November 18, 2019. United States on Monday imposed sanctions on 5 entities and 4 personalities, most of them stationed in Turkey, for supporting and funding ISIS. The Treasury Department said in a statement that the State Department's Office of Foreign Assets Control had imposed sanctions on 5 entities and 4 personalities for providing vital financial and logistical support to the internationally classified terrorist organization. U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said in the statement that these measures are part of the contribution of the department in the efforts of the administration of President Donald Trump to destroy the remaining terrorist cells of ISIS permanently, noting that this assistance comes through taking steps to reduce the organization's ability to recruit and arm fighters around the world by undermining its financial position. This list includes 3 entities, 2 persons based in Turkey, 1 entity in Afghanistan, 1 in Kuwait and 1 in Syria. Talabani: "If 10% of the funds after 2003 were properly dispersed, we would have seen another Iraq." November 19, 2019. Deputy Prime Minister of the Kurdistan Regional Government, Quwad Talabani, said that the status of Iraq to place it today has not been spent 10% of the funds allocated to him after 2003 properly. Talabani's speech came during a speech on Tuesday, November 19, 2019 during the work of the Forum, Peace and Security in the Middle East, at the American University in the province of Dahouk. From 2003 until now, tens of billions of dollars have been allocated in Iraq for reconstruction. For example, if 10% of that money had been properly dispersed, we would have seen Iraq 15 years later, Talabani said. He added, Iraq's problem of corruption and the mentality of some and patronage, and even Kochner, former French foreign minister and a participant in the forum, had a role in the Iraqi government will not be able to change anything. He commented on the protests in Iraq and said they did not come out of the blue. They are the result of poor governance and rampant corruption. This was born resentful citizens. He cited an example. The masses are demanding services and improving the living situation, and the political parties in Baghdad are moving to amend the constitution. And this has nothing to do with the demands of the demonstrators simply. He added that the experiences of other countries should be used to eliminate corruption. Peace and Security in the Middle East Forum starts in Duhok. November 19, 2019. The Forum on Peace and Security in the Middle East kicked off on Tuesday at the American University in Duhok. The 2-day forum will be held with the participation of the President of the Kurdistan region, Nachirvan Barzani, the President of the Kurdistan Regional Government, Masroor Barzani, and the Deputy Prime Minister Quwad Talabani. The forum will also include a number of political, security and personalities in the Middle East, Europe and America. The arrival of giant screens to Tahrir Square to watch the match between Iraq and Bahrain. November 19, 2019, 1635. Giant screens arrived on Tuesday at Tahrir Square in central Baghdad to watch the match between Iraq and Bahrain, which will start at 5 o'clock this afternoon. Witnesses said, for the Euphrates News, that giant screens arrived to erect in Tahrir Square. And the numbers of millions of demonstrators now waiting to watch the game Iraq and Bahrain. Iraq will meet Bahrain on Tuesday evening as part of the 6th round of the 2022 World Cup qualifiers. Parliament is holding an evening session today that may witness an unprecedented event. November 19, 2019, 9:06. The House of Representatives, its regular session on Tuesday evening. The House session could witness an unprecedented event by voting on an important package of laws at once. The Council is scheduled to vote on 6 important laws. Law on the abolition of financial privileges of officials in the state and amend the law of the elections of the provincial councils and the law of unified retirement and health insurance and the amendment of the Commission on Integrity. The first reading of the law, Parliament. The vote coincides with the largest public pressure after 2003, where popular demonstrations have continued in the country since the beginning of last month demanding reforms, fighting corruption and improving the living and service conditions. The pressure prompted 12 political forces at a meeting on Monday to agree on important decisions and recommendations to demand the protesters' demands and ease the crisis. The meeting was attended by Alliance of Conquest, Victory Coalition, the Rule of Law, the Coalition of Iraqi Forces, the Kurdistan Democratic Party, the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan, the Stream of Wisdom, the National Coalition, the Salvation and Development Front, the National Tender Bloc, the National Contract Bloc and the Turkmen Front, in the absence of the alliance. Participants in the meeting agreed on 6 resolutions and recommendations in addition to 5 important proposals. while threatening to withdraw confidence from the government and hold early elections if it shows the inability of the government or the House of Representatives to implement the articles and steps mentioned within the timings indicated. His spokesman, Abdul Mahdi, will submit to the Parliament a cabinet reshuffle he chose according to his convictions November 19, 2019. Prime Minister Saud al-Hadithi's office said Tuesday that Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi would present reformist cabinet reshuffles. Hadithi said in a press statement that the Prime Minister will present a list of ministers to the Ministries of Service and Economic and Concerned in the file of reforms and respond to the demands of the demonstrators at the level of living and service. He pointed out that some of the candidates have been selected and there is an update for the selection of others according to purely professional considerations and the Prime Minister's convictions of the capabilities and possibilities of new candidates for the consultation, away from the interventions and influences of political blocs and nominations. He added that the Prime Minister will soon go to the House of Representatives to put forward his desire to reshuffle the minister, calling on the House of Representatives to support this trend to develop a new mechanism with regard to the process of elasticity away from political quotas or partisan and bloc loyalties that had overcome the selection mechanism in previous governments. Oil falls for the second day in a row November 19, 2019. Washington, Reuters. U.S. oil prices fell for a second day on Tuesday as market concerns over limited progress in Sino-US trade talks on abolishing trade duties as well as increased U.S. inventories. U.S. West Texas Intermediate, WTI, crude was down 27 cents, or 0.47%, at $56.78 a barrel by 0549 Greenwich Mean Time, further away from Friday's 8-week high when hopes of a trade deal grew. Brent crude futures were down 20 cents, or 0.32%, at $62.24. CNBC television quoted a Chinese government source as saying on Monday there was pessimism in Beijing over the prospects of a trade deal as Chinese officials worry U.S. President Donald Trump's statement that no agreement on a phasing out of the duties has been reached. At the same time, a preliminary Reuters poll yesterday predicted that U.S. crude oil inventories will rise for the fourth week in a row, putting pressure on prices. The American Petroleum Institute is due to release data on the latest week by 2030 Greenwich Mean Time on Tuesday, while the U.S. Energy Information Administration's weekly official report is due on Wednesday. European shares rise in cautious trading November 19, 2019. European shares rose on Tuesday after the emergence of signs of delay to impose more U.S. sanctions on Chinese Huawei. Although the transactions are within a specific range as investors wait to see whether the United States and China will reach a preliminary trade agreement. The pan-European STOXX 600 index rose 0.4% by 0820 Greenwich Mean Time as London-listed stocks led the gains after several positive corporate results. The administration of U.S. President Donald Trump on Monday issued a new 90-day extension allowing U.S. companies to continue working with China's Huawei technologies. But the uncertainty over the trade deal left investors reluctant to make big bets after CNBC said overnight that sentiment in Beijing was pessimistic about the prospect of a deal. Oil denies damage to Iraq due to demonstrations November 19, 2019. Baghdad, Reuters. The oil ministry confirmed on Tuesday that Iraq has not suffered any losses due to popular protests that have hit the country since the beginning of last October, after demonstrators cut roads leading to sites and oil fields. The ministry spokesman Assem Jihad said in a press statement that production and export continues and stable without any obstacles after the demonstrations taking place in the country. Although citizens demonstrated near oil fields in the province of Basra, he added, the work continues in the oil fields in all provinces without disturbing the volume of oil production. He also stressed that there is a concern by the demonstrators not to be exposed to workers and the oil sector, noting that the ministry responded to a lot of requests regarding employment and improvement of services and has provided more than 2,800 jobs, according to data from the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC. Iraq's oil production reached 4.5 million barrels per day last October, making it the second largest crude producer in the organization after Saudi Arabia, 10.3 million barrels. On Tuesday, demonstrators blocked roads leading to oil fields in Basra province. The second round of popular protests in Iraq entered its 25th consecutive day, while the general strike in many cities intensified demonstrations. His spokesman, Abdul Mahdi, will submit to the Parliament a cabinet reshuffle he chose according to his convictions November 19, 2019. Prime Minister Saud al-Hadithi's office said Tuesday that Prime Minister Adel Abdul Mahdi would present reformist cabinet reshuffles. Hadithi said in a press statement that the Prime Minister will present a list of ministers to the Ministries of Service and Economic and Concerned in the file of reforms and respond to the demands of the demonstrators at the level of living and service. He pointed out that some of the candidates have been selected and there is an update for the selection of others according to purely professional considerations and the Prime Minister's convictions of the capabilities and possibilities of new candidates for the consultation, away from the interventions and influences of political blocs and nominations. He added that the Prime Minister will soon go to the House of Representatives to put forward his desire to reshuffle the minister, calling on the House of Representatives to support this trend to develop a new mechanism with regard to the process of elasticity away from political quotas or partisan and bloc loyalties that had overcome the selection mechanism in previous governments. www.aleracnews.com/modules/news/article.php $store equals 84716. 0 comments. Hadathi reveals the reason for the delay in sending the Council of Ministers budget law to Parliament November 19, 2019. Iraqi government spokesman Saud al-Hadathi said on Tuesday the reason for the delay in sending the budget law to the Parliament, noting that the law will include a paragraph to reduce salaries and cancel the privileges of senior officials. He said, "The Council of Ministers is about to finalize the preparation of the draft federal budget for 2020. Noting that the Council will send the law to Parliament soon, he added that the reason for the delay in sending the law from the Council of Ministers to the Council of Representatives is that the Council of Ministers wanted to ensure the financial allocations necessary to provide adequate financial cover in the application of all reform decisions and decisions issued by the Council of Ministers and directives issued by the Prime Minister on economic reforms and living in service, in response to the demands of the demonstrators, noting that it entails financial allocations." He added that the law will also include a special paragraph to reduce salaries and cancel the privileges of senior officials, the 3 presidencies, members of the House of Representatives, ministers, special grades. Learn about the most important decisions voted by Parliament, including providing job grades for the next 2 years. November 19, 2019. November 20, 2019. Speaker of the House of Representatives Mohammed Halbousi, on Wednesday, the number of job grades for the years 2020 and 2021. Halbousi said during the meeting that the number of job grades for 2020 will be 202,000 degrees and the number of job grades. He added, the year 2021 will be 29,000 degrees of functional after the implementation of the Unified Retirement Law voted on. The House of Representatives voted on the Integrity and Graft Law. A parliamentary source said, the House of Representatives voted on all the articles of the draft amendment to the first law of the Commission on Integrity No. 30 of 2014 and graft. The House of Representatives also voted on the law to abolish the financial privileges of state officials. The law included 11 articles, the first of which stipulates the abolition of the Financial Grant Allocation Law No. 13 of 2005, while Article 2 of the law prohibits the allocation of funds for treatment in presidencies. All 3 institutions, as well as prohibiting the allocation of rent allowances to those who own a property in Baghdad who are covered by law. Parliamentary Finance reveals details of the law to cancel the privileges of officials. The head of the Parliamentary Finance Committee, Haytham Al-Jubari, revealed the most prominent paragraphs of the law to cancel the privileges of officials and 3 presidencies, which was initiated by the House of Representatives. Al-Jubari said in a press conference in Parliament, the law includes a recommendation to abolish all protection regiments that have been in existence since 2003, and a decision obliging the Secretariat of the Council of Ministers to identify petty, as well as the cancellation of the allocation of hospitality from the 3 presidencies. The abolition of the issue of treatment and not to allocate any amount for this matter. We have authorized the 3 presidencies to follow up on the adoption of the law and to develop more laws to control public money, he said.